Jake Morrison stepped off the transport shuttle and felt his boots hit the metal deck of the Stellar Dawn. The sound was different here, heavier somehow. Everything looked bigger than he expected. The corridors stretched high above his head, and the walls seemed built for creatures much larger than humans. He carried his single duffel bag and followed the glowing arrows on the floor. Other recruits moved around him, but none of them looked human. A massive bear-like creature walked, past its fur a deep brown color. It nodded at Jake with intelligent eyes. Behind it came something that looked like it was made of living crystal, catching the light as it moved. Jake had been a Marine back on Earth for 6 years. He thought he knew what military life was like. But this was different. This was the Intergalactic. Defense Corps on Earth had just joined 3 months ago. Jake was part of the first group of human volunteers. The arrows led him to a large room filled with other new recruits. Most of them were twice his size or more. Jake stood 6 feet tall and weighed 200 pounds, which made him pretty big, back on Earth. Here he felt small. A creature that looked like a giant praying mantis stood at the front of the room. It wore what Jake assumed was a military uniform, though it was hard to tell with the alien body shape. When it spoke, a small device on its chest translated the words into English. "I am Commander Zixtal," the creature said. "You are all new recruits in the Defense Corps. You come from many different worlds, but here you will learn to fight as one unit." Jake looked around the room. He counted maybe 40 recruits. Only 5 of them were human. The rest came from species he had never seen before. Some had 4 arms. Others had skin that seemed to change color. One group looked like they belonged underwater. "Your training will be difficult," Commander Zixtal continued. "Many of you will not pass. Those who do will become part of the finest military force in the galaxy." A smaller mantis-like creature approached the commander and whispered something. Jake could not hear what they said, but he saw both creatures look in his direction. "Before we begin," the commander said, "we must address the special needs of different species. Some of you come from high-gravity worlds. Others come from low-gravity environments. We will adjust the training conditions to match your abilities." Jake felt a sinking feeling in his stomach. He had hoped to be treated like everyone else. The commander pointed at the humans. "You 5 step forward." Jake and the other humans moved to the front of the room. He recognized Lisa Parker, a former Air Force pilot. Next to her stood Danny Chen, who had been an Army engineer. The other 2 humans were soldiers he had met briefly on the transport. "Your planet has low gravity," the commander said. "Your bodies are not built for the standard conditions we use here. We will reduce the gravity in your training areas to help you adjust slowly." Jake felt heat rise in his face. Around the room, he could see other recruits watching. Some looked curious. Others seemed amused. A few appeared concerned, like they were already writing the humans off as weaklings. "Sir," Jake said, stepping forward slightly. The commander's large eyes focused on him. "Yes, recruit? What gravity do you normally use for training?" 2 times your planet's gravity, but do not worry. We will start you at normal Earth gravity and increase it slowly over many months." Jake looked at the other humans. Lisa nodded. "Had him slightly?" Danny had a determined look on his face. The other 2 seemed ready for whatever came next. "Sir, I think we can handle the standard gravity from the start." A murmur went through the room. Some of the alien recruits made sounds that the translator could not convert to English. The commander tilted its head in what might have been confusion. "That is not wise," the commander said. "Your species is classified as lightworlders. The medical data from your planet shows that double gravity would cause serious problems for your people." Jake thought about his training back on Earth. He remembered the weight rooms, the long runs with heavy packs, the obstacle courses designed to push Marines to their limits. He thought about all the times he had pushed himself beyond what seemed possible. "With respect, sir, I think your medical data might not tell the whole story." The bear-like creature Jake had seen earlier stepped closer. When it spoke, its voice was deep and rumbling. "I am Grex of the Ursan people. Your world's gravity is less than half of mine. How can you think you are ready for standard training?" Jake turned to face the much larger alien. "I guess we'll find out." A creature made of what looked like living crystal moved forward as well. Its voice sounded like wind chimes when it spoke. I am Lyra. My people are born in low gravity, but we train in high gravity from childhood. It takes years of preparation. Maybe humans are different, Jake said. The commander raised one of its long arms for silence. This is highly unusual. No light world species has ever requested standard gravity training from the beginning. Jake looked back at his fellow humans. They all nodded at him. Sir, we volunteer to try. If we can't handle it, we'll accept the modified training. But give us a chance to prove ourselves first. The room fell quiet. Jake could hear the hum of the ship's engines and the soft whisper of the air recycling system. Finally, Commander. Sixtal made a gesture with its arms. Very well. Tomorrow you will begin training under standard conditions, but I warn you, if any of you are injured, all humans will be moved to modified training immediately. As the meeting broke up, Jake found himself surrounded by curious alien recruits. Most seemed friendly, though some looked skeptical. Grex approached him. Human Jake, the bear creature said, I admire your courage. But courage alone will not help you when the gravity tries to crush your bones. Jake smiled. Maybe not. But it's a good place to start. That night, as he lay in his bunk in the human quarters, Jake wondered if he had made a mistake. The other humans seemed confident, but he could see worry in their eyes. Lisa had flown jets that pulled multiple Gs, so she might be okay. Danny was built like a tank and seemed ready for anything. But Jake was not sure about the other two. He thought about his old unit back on Earth. His squad leader used to say that Marines were not made in boot camp. They were revealed there. Tomorrow, Jake would find out what humans were really made of. The gravity generators hummed quietly in the walls around him. Soon they would be turned up to twice what he was used to. Jake closed his eyes and tried to sleep, but excitement kept him awake. For the first time since leaving Earth, he felt truly alive. The alarm sounded at what the ship's computer called 0500 hours. Jake rolled out of his bunk and felt the difference immediately. His feet hit the deck harder than expected. His arms felt heavy as he reached for his uniform. Every movement required more effort. Double gravity was real. Around him, the other humans were getting dressed slowly. Danny Chen grunted as he pulled on his boots. Lisa Parker was breathing harder than normal, but she looked determined. The other two humans, Pete Williams and Sam Rodriguez, seemed to be struggling more. How do you feel? Jake asked quietly. Like, someone tied weights to every part of my body, Lisa said. But I've pulled 4 Gs in a fighter jet. This is just longer. They made their way to the mess hall for breakfast. Walking took concentration. Each step had to be placed carefully. Jake watched the alien recruits moving around them with ease. Grex the Urson walked past their table like the gravity meant nothing to him. Look at them, Pete whispered. They act like this is normal. Because for them it is, Jake replied. We need to make it normal for us too. After breakfast, they reported to Training Bay 7. The room was huge, filled with obstacles, targets, and equipment Jake did not recognize. At the center stood Drill Sergeant Corvin, another mantis-like Calorian. He was bigger than Commander Zixtal and had scars across his chitinous shell. Today we begin basic combat training, Sergeant Corvin announced. You will learn to fight, move, and think under pressure. Some of you will fail. Those who fail will be sent home. He looked directly at the humans as he said the last part. The first exercise was simple running, 3 miles around the training deck. Jake had run marathons back on Earth. 3 miles should be easy. But under double gravity, each step felt like he was wearing a heavy pack. His breathing became labored after the first mile. Around him, most of the alien recruits kept pace easily. Grex was barely breathing hard. Lyra the crystal being moved with surprising grace despite her unusual body. But Jake noticed that a few of the smaller aliens were also struggling. By the second mile, Pete Williams had fallen behind. Sam Rodriguez was keeping up, but his face was red with effort. Lisa and Danny stayed close to Jake, all of them pushing forward. Come on, humans, Sergeant Corvin called out. Is this the best your species can do? Jake felt anger burn in his chest. He had let drill sergeants yell at him for years on Earth. But this felt different. This felt personal. He picked up his pace, forcing his legs to move faster despite the crushing weight. Lisa matched him step for step. Danny was right behind them. By the third mile, they had caught up to the middle of the pack. When they crossed the finish line, Jake was exhausted but standing. Pete and Sam finished several minutes later, but they finished. The next exercise was an obstacle course. Jake had run hundreds of obstacle courses as a Marine, but never under double gravity. The first obstacle was a wall climb. What should have been an easy pull-up became a struggle against his own body weight. He made it over, but barely. Behind him, he heard Pete grunt with effort. Sam was moving slowly but steadily. Lisa scaled the wall with the smooth motions of someone who had trained for this kind of thing. Danny attacked each obstacle like a bulldozer, using raw strength to power through. Halfway through the course, Jake noticed something interesting. He was getting used to the gravity. His movements were becoming more natural. His breathing was still heavy, but it was controlled. By the time they finished the obstacle course, the humans had performed better than Sergeant Corvin expected. Not great, but not terrible either. Jake could see surprise in the alien instructors' large eyes. The final exercise of the day was combat practice. They paired off for hand-to-hand combat training. Jake found himself facing Grex, the massive Urson. Even under normal gravity, the bear-like alien would have outweighed him by 100 pounds. Under double gravity, the size difference felt overwhelming. "Do not worry, human Jake," Grex said quietly. "I will be careful not to hurt you badly." Jake appreciated the concern, but it still stung. "Just fight normally. I can handle it." When Sergeant Corvin gave the signal, Grex moved forward slowly, clearly trying not to overwhelm his smaller opponent. Jake ducked under the first swing and landed a quick jab to Grex's ribs. It felt like punching a tree, but Grex grunted in surprise. The Urson picked up the pace, but Jake was faster. Under double gravity, his movements were more controlled, more deliberate. Every punch had to count, so he made sure they did. He could not match Grex for strength, but he could match him for technique. The bout ended in a draw, with both fighters still standing. Grex looked at Jake with new respect. "You fight well for a light worlder," the Urson said. "Thanks," Jake replied, breathing hard. "You're not bad for a walking carpet." Grex made a sound that might have been laughter. As the day's training ended, Sergeant Corvin approached the human group. Jake expected criticism, maybe even dismissal from the program. "You performed better than expected," the instructor said, "but this was only the first day. Tomorrow will be harder." That evening in the mess hall, Jake sat with his human teammates and several alien recruits. Lyra joined their table, along with a blue-skinned humanoid named Kess and one of the aquatic Neptari who wore a water-filled helmet. "How do you feel?" Lyra asked the humans. "Tired," Lisa admitted. "But good. Like we proved something today." "What did you prove?" Kess asked. The blue alien seemed genuinely curious. "That humans are tougher than we look," Danny said. Jake nodded, but he was thinking about something else. Today had been hard, but it had also felt natural somehow, like his body was designed for this kind of challenge. Back on Earth, he had always been drawn to difficult training, extreme conditions, and physical challenges that pushed him to his limits. Maybe double gravity was not the punishment everyone expected. Maybe it was an opportunity. "Sergeant Corvin seemed surprised," Grex said. "In 20 years of training recruits, I have never seen him look uncertain about anything." Jake smiled. "Good. I like keeping people guessing." Later, as he lay in his bunk, Jake thought about the day. His body ached in new places, but it was a good ache, the kind he used to feel after a particularly challenging workout. His muscles were adapting, learning to function under the increased load. Tomorrow would be harder, just like Sergeant Corvin promised. But Jake found himself looking forward to it. For the first time since arriving on the ship, he felt like he belonged here. The gravity generators hummed in the walls around him. The sound was becoming familiar, almost comforting. Jake closed his eyes and let the weight of double gravity settle over him like a heavy blanket. Instead of fighting it, he was learning to work with it, and that made all the difference. 3 weeks into training, Jake felt like a different person. His body had adapted to double gravity in ways that surprised even him. What had once felt crushing now felt normal. He moved with confidence through the training exercises, keeping pace with alien recruits who had seemed impossibly strong just weeks before. The other humans were adapting well too. Lisa had become one of the fastest runners in their group. Danny dominated the strength exercises. Even Pete and Sam, who had struggled at first, were now performing at levels that impressed their alien teammates. But Sergeant Corvin was not impressed. If anything, the Calorian instructor seemed more determined to find their breaking point. "Tomorrow is your final qualification test," Corvin announced to the assembled recruits. "You will face a combat simulation that tests everything you have learned. Many of you will fail. Those who fail will be removed from the program immediately." Jake looked around the room. Over the past 3 weeks, their group had shrunk from 40 to 28 recruits. Some had been injured, others had simply given up, but all 5 humans remained. After the briefing, Corvin approached Jake privately. The large alien's compound eyes studied the human carefully. "You have surprised me, human," Corvin said. "Your species is weaker than I expected, but more stubborn." Jake bristled at being called weak, but he kept his voice level. "We prefer determined, sir. Tomorrow we'll test your determination. The combat simulation is designed to break the strongest recruits. It pushes everyone to their absolute limit. We'll be ready, sir." Corvin made a gesture with his arms that might have been dismissive. "We shall see." That night, Jake could not sleep. He had been through final tests before, but never with so much at stake. If he failed here, he would be sent back to Earth in disgrace. Worse, he would prove right everyone who said humans were too weak for military service among the stars. The next morning arrived gray and cold, at least by ship standards. The recruits gathered in the largest training bay Jake had seen. The room was set up like a battlefield, complete with obstacles, enemy positions, and objectives to capture. Holographic projectors lined the walls, ready to create realistic combat scenarios. Admiral Kethmos was present, along with several other high-ranking officers Jake did not recognize. Their presence made the test feel even more important. "Today, you prove whether you deserve to serve in the Defense Corps," Admiral Kethmos announced. "Each of you will face the simulation alone. You must complete all objectives within the time limit while defending against enemy attacks." Corvin stepped forward. "We will test recruits in order of species classification. Low-gravity species first, then medium, then high-gravity species last." Jake realized that meant the humans would go first. He also realized why Corvin had arranged it that way. If the humans failed early, it would set a discouraging tone for the rest of the test. "Jake Morrison," Corvin called out. "You will be first." Jake stepped into the simulation chamber. Around him, holographic enemies began to appear. The objective was simple: fight through enemy positions to reach 3 separate targets, plant charges on each one, and escape before time ran out. He had just started moving when he heard Corvin's voice over the intercom. "To make this test appropriate for a light world species, we will increase gravity to double standard. That should provide a suitable challenge." Jake felt the gravity generators engage. The familiar weight of double gravity settled over him, but instead of the crushing burden he had felt weeks ago, it now felt comfortable, almost natural. In the observation area, he could hear murmurs of concern from the watching officers. They expected him to struggle, maybe even collapse under the increased load. Instead, Jake smiled. It was not a forced smile or a brave face put on for the observers. It was a genuine expression of excitement and anticipation. He had been training under double gravity for weeks. This was his element now. "Make it triple," he said clearly. The simulation chamber fell silent. Through the transparent walls, Jake could see the shocked faces of aliens and humans alike. Triple gravity meant 3 times Earth's gravity, 50% more than standard training conditions. Admiral Kethmos leaned forward. Did he just request triple gravity? Corvin looked uncertain for the first time since Jake had met him. "Admiral, triple gravity could seriously injure or kill a light world species. The medical risks are enormous. But he requested it, the Admiral said slowly, and he is smiling. Jake stood in the center of the chamber, waiting. The double gravity felt light now. He wanted to show everyone what humans could really do. He wanted to push himself to see how far he could go. Authorization granted, Admiral Kethmos said finally. Increase to triple gravity. The gravity generators whined as they spun up to maximum power. Jake felt the weight slam down on him like a physical blow. For a moment, he staggered. The crushing force was unlike anything he had experienced. Then his body adapted. His muscles, strengthened by weeks of double gravity training, responded to the challenge. His bones, denser than those of most species, held firm under the pressure. His cardiovascular system evolved for persistence hunting across long distances, pumped blood efficiently even under the increased load. He did not just survive triple gravity. He thrived in it. Jake began the simulation with smooth, deliberate movements. Every step was calculated, every action precise. The holographic enemies appeared, and he dispatched them with methodical efficiency. His punches hit harder under the eye, increased gravity. His movements were more controlled, more powerful. The first objective was a mock enemy bunker. Under triple gravity, Jake could not jump over obstacles like he normally would. Instead, he went through them, using raw strength to smash through barriers that would normally require agility to overcome. The second objective required climbing a vertical wall, while under fire from enemy positions. Jake scaled the wall like it was a ladder, his grip strengthened by the constant pressure of triple gravity. When he reached the top, he eliminated the enemy positions with precise, devastating attacks. The third objective was the most challenging, a running fight through multiple enemy positions while carrying simulated explosives. Under triple gravity, Jake could not run fast, but he could run forever. His pace was relentless, unstoppable. He completed all three objectives with time to spare. When the simulation ended and the gravity returned to normal, Jake felt almost weightless. He had to adjust his movements to avoid jumping or moving too quickly. The observation area was completely silent. Admiral Kethmos was the first to speak. In 30 years of military service, I have never seen anything like that. Corvin approached the simulation chamber, his compound eyes wide with something that might have been awe. How do you feel, recruit? Jake stretched, enjoying the feeling of normal gravity after an hour under triple load. Good, sir. Ready for the next challenge. Word of Jake's performance spread through the ship within hours. Other humans requested to attempt their tests under increased gravity. Lisa completed her test under double gravity with ease. Danny asked for triple gravity like Jake and performed almost as well. That evening, Jake found himself surrounded by alien recruits who wanted to understand what they had witnessed. Grex approached him with obvious respect. Human Jake, I owe you an apology. I called your people Lightworlders and assumed you were weak. I was wrong. Lyra joined the conversation, her crystal form reflecting the light in complex patterns. Your species classification needs to be changed. Humans are not Lightworlders at all. Jake thought about that. Maybe humans were not Lightworlders or Heavyworlders. Maybe they were something else entirely. Adapters, survivors, creatures who could thrive in any environment if given the chance to adjust. Thanks, he said simply, but we're just getting started. The medical bay of the Stellar Dawn was not designed for humans. The examination table was too long and the equipment looked like it belonged in an alien horror movie. But Dr. Heltry, the ship's chief medical officer, had insisted on comprehensive scans of Jake and the other humans after their performance in the qualification tests. Jake lay still as strange machines hummed and clicked around him. Lights passed over his body and screens displayed information he could not read. Dr. Heltry was a Zelothian like Lyra, but older and more experienced. Her crystalline form contained flecks of gold that seemed to pulse with thought. Fascinating, she murmured, studying the displays. Absolutely fascinating. What's fascinating? Jake asked. Your bone density is 30% higher than our initial measurements indicated. Your muscle fiber composition is unlike anything in our database, and your cardiovascular efficiency under stress is remarkable. Admiral Kethmos entered the medical bay, followed by Commander Zixtal and several other officers. They gathered around Dr. Heltry's displays, speaking in low tones. "Doctor," the Admiral said, "explain what you have found." Dr. Heltry gestured to the screen showing Jake's scans. "We made incorrect assumptions about human physiology based on their planet's gravity. Earth does have relatively low gravity, but humans did not evolve in a low-stress environment." She changed the display to show a comparison between Jake's body and those of other species. "Look at the bone structure. Human bones are not just dense, they are designed for impact and stress. The muscle fiber ratio shows a species built for endurance and explosive power. The cardiovascular system is designed for sustained high performance under pressure." Commander Zixtal tilted his head. "But their planet has low gravity. How is this possible?" "Because gravity is not the only environmental pressure," Dr. Heltry explained. "Humans evolved as persistence hunters on a world with extreme climate, variations, dangerous predators, and constant competition for resources. Their bodies adapted for survival in harsh conditions, not for easy living in low gravity." Jake sat up on the examination table. "Doc, are you saying we're tougher than we look?" "Much tougher. Your species classification as light worlders is completely wrong. Based on these scans, humans should be classified as extreme environment adapters. You are biologically designed to thrive under stress that would break most other species." The Admiral studied the data carefully. "This explains their performance under triple gravity. They were not pushing beyond their limits. They were finally approaching them." Over the next few days, word of the medical findings spread throughout the fleet. Jake found himself treated differently by both alien and human crew members. The aliens looked at him with new respect, while the humans seemed to stand a little taller, walk a little more confidently. Sergeant Corvin approached Jake during training one morning. The Calorian instructor had been strangely quiet since the qualification tests. "Human Jake," Corvin said, "I owe you an apology." "No need, sir. You were just doing your job." "No, I was letting my assumptions cloud my judgment. I thought your people were weak because your planet seemed easy. I forgot that the galaxy's most dangerous species often come from worlds that appear gentle." Jake thought about Earth with its storms, earthquakes, predators, diseases, and the constant human tendency toward conflict. Gentle was not a word anyone who knew human history would use. "Earth is not as peaceful as it looks from space," Jake admitted. "I am beginning to understand that. Tell me, what was it like growing up on your world?" Jake considered the question. "Competitive. Everything was a challenge, from school to sports, to just finding a job. We had to fight for everything. Nothing was ever guaranteed." "And your military training?" "Designed to break us down and rebuild us stronger. We trained in every environment: desert, Arctic, jungle, mountains. The idea was that if we could handle the worst conditions on Earth, we could handle anything." Corvin made a gesture that might have been understanding. "And now you find yourself in an environment where those survival skills are exactly what you need." "Yes, sir. It feels like everything in my life has been preparing me for this." That afternoon, Jake received orders to report to Admiral Kethmos. He found the Admiral in his office, studying what appeared to be military reports and strategic assessments. "Sit down, Morrison," the Admiral said. "We need to discuss your future." Jake sat in the human-sized chair that had been brought in for the meeting. "Sir? Your performance and that of the other humans has changed how we think about your species. We are restructuring our entire understanding of human capabilities." The Admiral activated a holographic display showing various military operations throughout the galaxy. "These are current conflict zones where we have been unable to establish a military presence due to extreme environmental conditions. High-gravity worlds, planets with toxic atmospheres, areas where the physical demands are too great for most species." Jake studied the displays. Each location looked dangerous and uninhabitable. "We want to create a new military division specifically for extreme environment operations, the Heavy Gravity Combat Division, and we want humans to lead it." Jake felt a thrill of excitement mixed with responsibility. "Sir, I'm honored, but I'm just one person." "You will not be alone. We are requesting additional human volunteers from Earth, specifically individuals with military backgrounds and extreme environment training." We are also identifying members of other species who can operate under high-gravity conditions. The Admiral leaned forward. Morrison, I want you to understand what this means. You and your fellow humans have not just joined our military. You have created an entirely new branch of it. You have shown us capabilities we did not know existed. Jake thought about his fellow humans back on Earth. Marines, soldiers, pilots, and sailors who had trained their entire lives for challenging conditions. People who had served in deserts, mountains, Arctic regions, and war zones. People who, like him, seemed to thrive when things got difficult. How soon can we get started? Jake asked. The Admiral smiled, an expression that looked strange on his alien features. Immediately. Your first mission will be to retake mining station Kappa 7. The holographic display changed to show a massive industrial complex on a rocky, barren world. The station was abandoned 6 months ago when enemy forces occupied it. The planet has 3.2 times standard gravity, making it impossible for most of our forces to operate effectively there. The enemy assumes it is safe, because they believe no one can mount an assault under those conditions. Jake studied the tactical display. The station was heavily fortified with multiple defensive positions and clear fields of fire. Under normal circumstances, it would be a challenging target. Under triple gravity, it would be nearly impossible. For most species. How many people do I get? 20 humans, including your current teammates. 10 Ursans who volunteered for high-gravity training. 5 Calorians with special equipment modifications. And 2 Zolothians with enhanced physical structures. Jake nodded. When do we leave? 1 week. Use that time to prepare your team and develop tactics for high-gravity combat operations. As Jake left the Admiral's office, he felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. But it was a good weight, like the triple gravity that had revealed what humans were really capable of. He found Lisa, Danny, Pete, and Sam in the mess hall, along with Grex and Lyra. When he told them about the new division and their first mission, their reactions were exactly what he expected. Finally, Lisa said, a challenge worthy of our time. High-gravity combat operations, Danny mused. I like the sound of that. Grex pounded the table with enthusiasm. To fight alongside humans, in conditions that would crush most warriors. This will be glorious. Jake looked around at his team, human and alien alike. They were no longer just recruits trying to prove they belonged. They were the foundation of something new, something that would change how the galaxy thought about warfare and what was possible. 1 week to get ready, he said. Let's make it count. 6 months later, Jake stood in the command center of mining station Kappa 7, watching his team prepare for another mission. The station had been retaken in less than 4 hours, a military operation that most experts had said would take weeks or be impossible entirely. The Heavy Gravity Combat Division had grown from 37 members to over 200. Humans made up the core, but volunteers from 17 different species had joined after undergoing specialized high-gravity training. Not all of them succeeded, but those who did became part of something unique in galactic military history. Squad, Leader Morrison, came a voice from behind him. Jake turned to see Admiral Kethmos approaching. The Admiral had been present for every major operation of the new division, watching with obvious pride as they accomplished missions that had previously been considered impossible. Admiral, Jake said, standing at attention. At ease. I wanted to speak with you before your next assignment. Jake relaxed slightly. Over the months, his relationship with the Admiral had evolved from recruit and commander to something more like colleagues. The success of the Heavy Gravity Division had earned Jake respect throughout the fleet. What's the mission? Jake asked. Fortress, World Gamma 9. Enemy stronghold on a planet with 4 times standard gravity. Intelligence suggests they have been using it as a staging area for attacks on our supply lines. Jake studied the tactical display the Admiral activated. The planet was a nightmare of rocky terrain, deep canyons, and massive defensive installations. Under 4 times standard gravity, even movement would be exhausting for most species. How long have they been there? 2 years. We have attempted 3 separate assault operations. All failed before the landing forces could even establish a beachhead. The gravity is simply too much for conventional forces. Jake nodded, already thinking about tactics and troop deployment. How many people do I get? 150. Your best teams plus new volunteers who completed high-gravity certification last week. This will be the largest operation the division has undertaken. Through the command center's large windows, Jake could see his current team running training exercises on the station's outer hull. Even under the station's crushing 3.2G environment, they moved with confidence and skill. Lisa Parker had been promoted to lieutenant and commanded her own squad of pilots, specialized in high-gravity atmospheric operations. Danny Chen led the engineering team that had developed new equipment specifically for extreme environment warfare. Pete and Sam had become expert trainers, helping new recruits adapt to high-gravity conditions. There is something else, Admiral, Kethmos said. This mission has attracted attention at the highest levels of command. If you succeed, the heavy gravity division will be expanded significantly. We are talking about thousands of troops, dedicated ships, and resources to take on operations that were previously impossible. Jake felt the familiar thrill of a new challenge. And if we fail, then the division will likely be disbanded as too expensive and too specialized. The weight of responsibility was heavier than any gravity Jake had experienced, but it was a familiar weight now, one that motivated rather than crushed him. We won't fail, Jake said simply. 3 days later, Jake's transport ship dropped out of hyperspace near Fortress World Gamma 9. The planet was a massive sphere of dark rock and metal, its surface dotted with defensive installations that looked like they could withstand orbital bombardment. Beginning descent, Lisa's voice came over the comm system. She was piloting the lead assault craft, modified with enhanced engines and reinforced hull plating to handle extreme gravity operations. Jake felt the familiar sensation of increasing gravity as they descended through the atmosphere. 2G, 3G, 4G. When they reached the surface, every movement would require 4 times the normal effort. Around him, his team prepared for combat with the calm efficiency that had made them legendary throughout the fleet. Human, Ursan, Calorian, and Zilothian troops worked together with perfect coordination. 30 seconds to landing, Lisa announced. Jake activated the comm system to address the entire assault force. Remember, we are not just fighting for this mission. We are proving that there are no limits to what we can accomplish. No environment too harsh. No challenge too great. Show them what the heavy gravity division can do. The landing was harder than normal due to the increased gravity, but the specially designed craft handled the stress. Jake was the first out of his transport, his boots hitting the rocky surface with a heavy thud that sent vibrations up through his legs. 4 times. Earth gravity was crushing, but it was also familiar. Jake had been training under these conditions for months. His body had adapted, grown stronger, more efficient. What would have killed him a year ago now felt like home. The assault began immediately. Enemy forces had positioned themselves in defensive bunkers scattered across the rocky terrain. Under normal gravity, the attacking force would have used speed and mobility to overcome the entrenched positions. Under quadruple gravity, speed was impossible. So Jake's team used something else: unstoppable determination. They advanced across the open ground like a slow-moving avalanche. Enemy fire came down on them in waves, but they kept moving forward. When obstacles blocked their path, they went through them rather than around them. When defensive positions seemed impregnable, they simply applied more force until the defenses broke. Danny's engineering team had modified their equipment for high-gravity operations. Explosives hit harder, cutting tools worked more efficiently, and protective barriers were built stronger. Everything was designed around the principle that in extreme conditions you did not fight against the environment. You used it. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it was over, Fortress World Gamma 9 was in the hands of the Heavy Gravity Division. The enemy had abandoned positions they had held for 2 years, unable to understand how anyone could fight effectively under such conditions. Jake stood on the highest point of the captured fortress, looking out over the rocky landscape. His team was scattered across the defensive positions, securing the area and preparing for possible counterattack. But Jake knew there would be no counterattack. The enemy had been broken not just tactically, but psychologically, his comm system activated and Admiral Kethmos's voice came through clearly despite the distance. "Congratulations, Colonel Morrison," the Admiral said. Jake blinked in surprise. Colonel was a significant promotion, one that came with major responsibilities. "Thank you, sir. The division is being expanded immediately. We are requesting 5,000 additional human volunteers from Earth, and we are establishing training facilities on high-gravity worlds throughout our territory. You have created something that will change the nature of warfare in this galaxy." Jake thought about the long journey from that first day on the stellar dawn, when Sergeant Corvin had assumed humans were too weak for standard training. The memory of his response still made him smile. "Make it triple." That phrase had become the unofficial motto of the Heavy Gravity Division. It was painted on their equipment, written on banners, and whispered like a prayer before difficult missions. 3 words that captured the human approach to challenges. When things got tough, ask for more. "There is one more thing," Admiral Kethmos continued. "Command wants to know if you have any requests for the expansion." Jake looked down at his team, aliens and humans working together in conditions that would have been impossible for either group alone. He thought about all the young people back on Earth who, like him, seemed to thrive when things got difficult. "Just one, sir. When we recruit new humans, make sure they understand what they're signing up for. We don't want people who are looking for easy assignments. We want people who smile when you tell them the odds are impossible." "Understood. Anything else?" Jake felt the familiar weight of quadruple gravity settling around him like a comfortable blanket. In the distance, he could see another enemy position that intelligence had missed. It would need to be dealt with, probably under even worse conditions than they had just faced. He smiled. "Just keep the challenges coming, sir. We're just getting started." The comm went silent, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts in the crushing embrace of extreme gravity. Around him, the Heavy Gravity Division continued their work, proving once again that humans had found their place among the stars not in spite of harsh conditions, but because of them. Jake Morrison had come to space as an unknown recruit from a supposedly weak species. He was returning to his post as the commander of the galaxy's most elite military unit, leading soldiers who had redefined what was possible. And every day, when someone told them a mission was too dangerous, an environment too harsh, or a challenge too great, they would smile and give the same answer that had started it all: "Make it triple."